Welcome to the 2025 Dialogue, a masterclass series by the HR Association of India. I am Neha Jagnani, and today's session delves into a theme that resonates deeply with the evolving world of work: the conscious workplace, building cultures of care, courage, and clarity. To help us explore this powerful concept, we have with us Dr. Debjani Roy, a veteran HR leader with over 3 decades of experience across marquee organizations like Nalco, Bharti, HCL Technologies, Bentley Systems, Kuoni, and SRL Diagnostics, a part of Fortis Group, where she most recently served as a CHRO and a board level HR partner. An alumna of FMS Delhi in organizational behavior, she is regarded as one of India's most progressive HR business voices. Today, she advises and mentors organizations in building future ready people strategies that are rooted in empathy and impact. Dr. Devjani, thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Neha. It's always a pleasure to be on the platform of HRAI. You guys are doing a great work.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Dr. Devjani. So, to begin with this conversation, when we talk about conscious workplace, Dr. Devjani, I want to know what does that truly mean in today's context, and how does it go beyond the traditional idea of employee well-being?
Neha, every workplace has a culture of its own, an environment of its own, um, uh, things that we strive to create. Every leadership team, and especially the CHRO or whoever is heading the HR, tries to bring in place. It has the typical things about doing performance reviews properly, making sure onboarding is done well, the right kind of talent is onboarded, they are taken care of in the right way. So traditional ways of looking after an employee has always been there. However, when we talk about something called the conscious workplace, it is orchestrated primarily on the basis of approaching the three pillars of people, purpose, and planet in a very different manner. So when we talk about conscious, it means that there is a design behind everything that we do. When
Right.
we look at how to handle the people, what is the purpose we are in business for, and how do we treat the planet around us. So nothing happens by default. It's everything is designed, meticulously executed, and everything metricized and measured so that there are no pitfalls, there are no offshoots. There are nothing that's really falling between the cup and the lip, and we're cognizant about what we are out there to do. So people first, having a culture of people first, making sure that you are practicing intentional inclusivity, making sure that you're an enterprise that is living not just for profits but beyond that. Also, you should be purpose driven. So you need to be conscious about things like conservation, energy, sustainability, making sure that resources are optimized. So it's not just about the people, it's also about everything else that is around you, and you make use of it in the course of business. And last but not the least, growth. Growth, conscious growth, designed growth, whether it's for the people or for the organization, in every measure, but putting in place proper systems and processes to follow it through. So that to me is what is really a conscious workplace.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Devjani. Beautifully articulated the three pillars, especially. Thank you for highlighting people, purpose, and planet. I think a culmination of all of this stands as a
Yes,
conscious workplace. Thank you so much. My
right.
next question, Dr. Devjani, is in your experience, what are some practical ways that organizations can use to embed care in their culture without compromising on accountability or performance?
That's actually a when I hear that question, it fills me with a lot of what can I say? It fills me with gratitude to the fact that while we have moved a lot towards creating employee care to be just a buzzword to being something substantial, we're not losing sight of the real reason for which organizations exist, which is commercial sustainability. The ability to have a performing group of people, the cohorts who are making sure that there is growth on growth and the company is taking forward. However, having said that, when we talk about care, it's not just a four letter word. Care needs to be, as I said even earlier to your first question, consciously and meticulously executed. So, things might sound tangible, but they're really not. For instance, when I talk about communication, you know, it open communication and transparency, which is an output, of open communication, is a very big factor in being one of those culture pivots. That's one of the things which is embedded when embedded at the workplace as a live wire. I call it the live wire of culture. It makes sure that a lot of problems are taken care of by itself. Similarly, diversity is again not just a buzzword. It's not something that you talk about. If we are talking about inclusion, making sure that every talent hired in your organization is looked after in the right way, feels comfortable to be a part of that culture, then obviously we need to put in place certain systems, certain practices, initiatives which not just parrot the word diversity, but actually practices it. So here, I'd like to highlight that very beautiful organization. Beautiful not because of the burgers that they sell, but because of the kind of inclusivity and diversity they practice, which is McDonald's world over. I was happy to walk into one of the McDonald outlets in Kolaba in Mumbai way back in 2015. And believe you me, the 26 staff members who were consciously managing that store were all deaf and dumb, you know and they were trained they so beautifully that they knew exactly how to approach you when you took a seat, showed their tab, took the orders, made sure they had a smile to lend back to you, walked back to the teller, showed the order, brought the bill back, you followed him to that place. Everything was meticulously done. There was absolutely no flaws. And that is what diversity is. That there's so much of uniformity and conscious, implementation of the training programs, of the skill developments, that you can't have a flaw even when you're dealing with what we today call as differently abled. That's diversity for me.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
Similarly, some of the other practical ways, work life balance. Don't, again, not a buzzword, but small things create flexibility around practices. Okay, it doesn't have to be a uniform policy all across, but where it makes the maximum impact, be flexible enough to address it. I
Right.
think that sometimes goes miles more than just having a policy in place. Similarly, recognition, structured and non-structured ways of celebrating successes, small things, pat on the back, different strokes, little bill things, little notelets which can be pinned to your desktop, and a nice little handwritten note. Small gestures goes a long way. Also promoting innovation and flexibility at work, strong wellness support, all of this together are some of those initiatives that if you keep practicing little by little and innovating over a period of time, it creates a very robust culture which is consciously put in place rather than being an offshoot of something which you can't put a finger on. So I think those would be some of the practical ways in which you can actually create a conscious culture at the workplace.
Sure, sure. Just to summarize, Dr. Debjani, there is communication, which you called as a life wire. There is diversity, inclusion, work-life balance, celebrating small wins and small gestures. So thank you so much for that. My next question, Dr. Debjani, is you have often spoken about courage in leadership. So how can leaders cultivate psychological safety that encourages difficult conversation and authentic expression?
This is I know this debate. I've encountered this debate many a times with a lot of my colleagues and fraternity colleagues. Um, is leadership a quality that is inherent when you're born? Are you born with it, or is it something which can be cultivated and learned? Now, I'm not too sure which way to swing in this, but yes, that courage, that word courage, which comes with leadership, is something which you are either born with, it cannot be learned. Courage is not a skill which is learned. Okay, it is something that you're imbued with. Okay, and that goes a long way in determining whether you are in a position to create that consciousness, that create that implementation tenacity, the killer instinct to put in place what you really need to do. For instance, modeling vulnerability, which is starting from self. I think that's one of the biggest things that leadership can do to make sure that people are watching and people are actually following what is a leadership mantle. So Michael Jackson, um, the mirror, the song about the mirror. Okay, um, it was so beautiful because he said, I start with myself and I look into the mirror. Okay, I've always thought that, whether it's music, whether it's arts, there's so many things to borrow from each one of them, because many of these icons have left messages for us which we fail to look beyond just the melody and the beat, right? So, you know modeling vulnerability, accepting mistakes, showing the fact that we are human, we are also able to fail, make mistakes. These are some of the cues which people need to pick from leadership. And it requires courage to be able to do that. Also, observing and engaging. While you observe things that are happening around the corner, you engage accordingly. That becomes very, very important to take people along. Also, curiosity. How do you breed curiosity in the workplace? Make sure that people who are curious ask too many questions. You don't put them down by saying, "Oh, you ask too many questions." Rather, you say that, "Okay, that's fantastic. You have these questions, but then let's look at how we can really take them forward. Not everything can be answered. Not everything needs to be answered, but don't put them down. Okay, because that's important. Also, leadership needs to be, what can I say, dotted with what I call the learning moments and the teaching moments. Okay? Because if I have the courage to teach, walk the talk, I am teaching through walking the talk, and the people are learning from that. So, those are some of the things which have to be inculcated. And to top it all, I think the ability and what we say, the heart to engage in direct conversations. That's very, very important.
Sure.
Because if you're unable to have the courage to get into direct conversations and you're skirting around topics, then most of the time you're not getting where you need to be.
True.
So, consciousness and proper conscious workplace needs courage to back it up. And
Sure.
leaders are not just leaders because of the fact that they have a title and a position to talk, call about, but because they bring that quality to their table.
Sure.
That's what, to me.
Sure. Thank you so much. Just to
Yes.
summarize, you started beautifully with modeling vulnerability. Then you said about accepting mistakes, accepting failures as well, observing and engaging. Curiosity has to be there. And the whole thing needs to be dotted with learning moments and teaching moments, walking the talk, starting with yourself and setting examples. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Debjani. Moving on, how do you see clarity playing role in driving trust and purpose alignment, especially in the times of uncertainty or change?
So this is a cardinal question, okay, and it's a critical part of change management anyway. What is clarity? Clarity is nothing but making sure that the right messages are communicated, the right messages are laid out for people to hang on to, so that people don't go walking and snooping around in corners, trying to gather, trying to pick up cues, pick up signals, which may or may not be the right thing, may not be the truth for all you know. And that is what ultimately results in grapevine. When you don't have clarity in the environment, when you don't have open and transparent communication channels, which actually feeds the right messaging from time to time, that's where gossip proliferates. That's where people start talking. I won't say it starts with negativity. It starts with all kinds of what can I say, mixed messages, and then finally leads to negativity, because at the end of the day, gossip can rarely be productive.
Right.
It basically takes a turn which be- which sometimes it fuels fear. Okay, sometimes it fuels fear. It also gives rise to rumors and resistance. both coins of the same, sides of the same coin. And finally, if you don't have clear and consistent conversations, and if you don't have those messages going across, stress becomes very, very critical in the environment. Stress proliferates. So, a clarity in both communication, both the way things are, and the way you take the workplace management forward is very critical. One, to mitigate stress. Second, to rally people towards a certain particular direction and make sure that energies are cohesively channeled in those directions, which is so important for productive work. And finally, it helps to promote trust, and trust is everything. To me, trust is everything. So, clarity, topmost quality, clarity not only in speech and manner, but clarity in every possible way, so that the whole environment resonates with that quality from every corner.
Sure. Thank you so much. It takes me back to the previous answer where you said communication is like a life wire. It truly is. It's the backbone of everything and how you communicate. So clarity becomes crucial not only to mitigate risk, but to create that ecosystem of trust and belonging for
Correct.
people. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
This brings us to
And,
the
and I just want to add one more thing, Neha. Clarity or transparency in communication need not mean that you have to share 100% of everything with the workforce. There would always be matters of confidentiality. There would always be matters which could be, a make or break of a deal. Now, the leadership should understand where to have the threshold level marked, where to draw the line, but at least 80%, I strongly believe, having lived it myself, 80 to 85% of total communication is something which can always be shared with the people.
sure.
Okay, your confidentiality is not something, which is such an overriding body that 50% needs to be withheld. That's a misnomer. That's something which we, when we get into ego trips and we want to withhold information because we think it's power, that's the trip we get into, and that is completely a no-no when it comes to creating an enabling environment.
Sure, sure. Very pertinent point. Thank you so much for that. This brings us to the last question, Dr. Debjani, which is for HR professionals and leaders looking to create conscious cultures, what small yet impactful actions they can start immediately?
I think start small, but start impactful. One is treat mistakes as learning lessons. Because everybody makes mistakes. Let's understand. We've all made mistakes. But we all had the good fortune of having mentors and superior officers who allowed us that little space to say, okay, as long as that mistake was not intentional, it's fine. Just don't repeat it again. Just make sure that you learn from this so that next time your notch is up. So at least we also have that onus of creating that safe space for the progeny ahead. Similarly, while they need to be given the chance to, make the mistakes, they also need to be given the chance to express. And when you create a safe space for expression, that again is something which is a very big cue for creating a conscious workplace, because nobody should feel restricted. Nobody should feel that there is reprimand around somewhere in the corner. Okay, if I say this, I will be taken to task. Now, those are small little things which are little culture inputs, but the HR managers can certainly take cognizance of that and build around it. Similarly, encouraging questions, making sure that we praise generously and frequently. Of course, not without reason. I'm not saying you just, there are no charities around the corner. But yes, where it deserves, we sometimes become absolutely, miserly. I think we need to stop being miserly and generously praise people when they even do a small little thing, because that would have added to the overall effort in some way or the other. And finally, I think normalizing time off, that's very, very important. Somehow, I find that in today's organizations, there's so much of negativity about taking time off or spending time with family, or wrapping up work on time. It's almost like if you were able to finish work on time, oh, what the hell, she or he is probably not working enough. I think it's just the opposite. If somebody is able to do the work in the right time, he's a better manager. And I think that's a skill which we need to learn from each other. So HR managers, rather than talk big and take the refuge of jargons, should just talk simple common sense approaches on the shop floor, on the workplace, at the workplace, so that people are able to understand and practice accordingly.
Sure, sure. Beautifully put. Just to summarize, start small, treat mistakes as learning lessons, give chance to express, encourage questions, generously praise people, and normalizing time off. So, thank you so much for that. This brings us to the end of this masterclass, Dr. Debjani. Thank you for sharing such deeply insightful perspectives there. And you have reminded us that conscious workplace isn't a concept, it's a commitment to lead with empathy, to act with
Absolutely.
courage and also
Yeah.
to communicate with clarity. So thank you so much for your
It's the intent. It's the intent to make a difference to the workplace.
right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your insights today.
Thank you, Neha, and thank you, HRAI, for once again giving me the platform to express my points of views. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Devjani. It's our pleasure. Thank you.